Hi there, Scorpio. Welcome to your end of May 2025 General Tarot update. It's Raina here. Before I begin, I have this stone that I found, and I don't know if this is somebody told me what this was. Does any Scorpio people know anything about crystals? I don't know if you can see the color. It's kind of like a pale, like a sky blue. It's not milky white. It's actually like a sky blue color. And I asked one time before, and somebody told me, but I forgot. All right. So this is coming off of the heels of the full moon in your sign, which was really not that long ago, now that I think about it, because I'm recording this on the 16th and it was on the 12th. So this could very well be something that came up at that time, but it's not necessarily what I wanted to say is, like the full moon means that the sun is in opposition. So if it's in your sign, then the sun is in the seventh house, theoretically, let's put it that way. And that's the house of relationships. So it can indicate when you have a full moon, either in your sign in the first house or in the opposite house, the seventh house, it is going to be that polarity of relationship. And it only really differs about whether or not you're the one that is kind of putting the emphasis on you, like, okay, because when the full moon is in the seventh house, it might be more like looking at the other person or looking at the relationship and seeing it in a new light. But this could be more reflecting on yourself. Are you giving in too much to another person at your own expense? Or, how is that all playing out for you? The heart of the matter is the Nine of Wands, and this is a card of boundaries. But here's the deal. Yes, in some cases, people may be reflecting on current events and it could in their life, and it could even be work-related events, and saying, wow, I should have had stronger boundaries. Like in terms of work, it's like, oh wow, how many times did I agree to do something and where did it get me? They still treated me like crap. And then they expected even more from me. It didn't really do me any good to be so available. And you look at it and you said, I didn't have strong enough boundaries. Maybe I was afraid of displeasing them. I wanted to be indispensable. But in your private life, the same thing, allowing the other party, and it doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship. It could even be just like a friendship or something, if it's something meaningful to you. But just like this idea of not having strong enough boundaries. And I think of like Scorpios, I think, well, that doesn't really sound like Scorpio, because Scorpio, if anything, you tend to have walls that you've built. And that could be, what this represents as well sometimes, is the idea of like, erecting these walls that keep you from letting somebody else in emotionally, because you don't trust. You have like this fear of being betrayed again or whatever happened. But one thing that I was going to say in terms of like a Scorpio person who may have erred in the side of being too agreeable or available, and agreeing to do things is you could easily have inner planets in Libra. You might have Mars in Libra, Venus in Libra, Mercury in Libra. Your moon can be anything. You might have the moon in Virgo or Virgo rising, and you just want to help people, and you really have this sincere desire to be of service to others, and it gets exploited by sometimes. So it's kind of one of those things where you may feel like your heart was in the right place, or it might have been that you were insecure, because if you're doing something to be liked, then that's insecurity, obviously. A bit different if you're like new to a job and you just want to make a good impression. I don't think there's anything insecure about that. I think that's pretty logical. But yeah, so without knowing your situation, I'm just kind of describing possibilities. In the past position, we have the judgment card. So this can be something that you're kind of reviewing in your mind, like, what did I do? What was the, where was the lack of judgment? Did I show judgment? Did I put my faith in the wrong person? Again, this does not have to be like a romantic situation, but it might be. It might be that you threw your judgment out the window and you had your, the Nine of Wands can be having your, what do they call it? You're not having your boundaries down, but having your, like having your guard down. And sometimes I see like the nine of Wands when somebody is dealing with a narcissist and maybe they've left that relationship, even if you didn't initiate the breakup or anything. It's what I see or what I think happens sometimes is a person might even be left by the narcissist and they start to recover from that horrible situation, that abusive situation, and they're thinking, what did I allow in my life? That was crazy that I allowed this. And it's almost like this temporary insanity. And then you hear from that person and you might be like, oh my gosh, that person can't live without me. They tried to, they're the one that left, and now they want to get back together, and you're flattered, even though it's almost like you forget everything that happened. And so it's like kind of letting down your guard and having that dilemma. So also the judgment card can be a legal judgment. So if somebody gets divorced, again, it could even be to a narcissist. And you think, okay, that's over with, and then it's not over. Because these people tend to be very, they're game players. They're not really, everything they do is calculated. So nothing is really sincere, or it's all just calculated to produce a certain effect or to kind of give you the impression something false about yourself. And the higher message is the Three of Cups, which is a card of friendship and socializing. It could be a celebration, wedding shower, baby shower, wedding itself. But since this is like the spiritual lesson, maybe it's saying like part of what happened is that you abandoned your social support system, or what do they call it? Like yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And maybe that led to being more vulnerable and more isolated from people that could give you feedback, that could have said, wow, I feel like you're changing, or that this person isn't really good for you. And so maybe that's something that you're going to be changing in your life, that you're going to be more available for friends and more want to also be more lighthearted, because the Nine of Wands is kind of a wary sort of energy, you know. I'm kind of the grammar police, and I always like tell people, you know, wariness and weariness are not the same things. Wary is being, you know, kind of cautious and kind of looking over your shoulder that something is going to happen, and weary is being tired. What crosses you is the Knight of Wands, which is this could be a person who is that actually this card is supposed to be connected to Sagittarius, um, but it could be connected. I feel it could easily be Aries, and I had like this strong for I don't know why, but I was having this feeling of Aries. Uh, I don't know why. Maybe sometimes, you know, I do these combination videos like sun and moon, and sometimes with two different people, like how do these people, their sun signs or their moon signs, how do they kind of mesh? And I think somebody was telling me I'm an Aries and the other person is a Scorpio, or vice versa. And, you know, both signs are ruled by Mars. The only difference is that Scorpio is also ruled by Pluto. But, you know, one is fire, one is water. And what this could mean is that this person holds some kind of attraction to you. Like you're just like insanely attracted to them. Um, Perhaps this is kind of your type, which is, I mean, maybe it's a Sagittarian. It's a fire. It's like a very fiery type of person. They're very freedom loving, and maybe that is kind of intoxicating for you because it makes you feel like the quality of being elusive is actually very attractive to you in a twisted sort of way. But and I say twisted because it's going to produce the opposite effect. You're not going to be able to really have a relationship with somebody who's always on the run, or who is afraid of commitment, which this kind of person could be. So maybe this is a pattern, and maybe this does have to do with your judgment. But you have to, if this is something that is true for you, you would have to, you know, really get clear and honest with yourself about your own feelings related to commitment, and whether or not you're afraid of it yourself. You might think, I really want commitment, but when push comes to shove, you're kind of like a little bit leery about it. And I think part of this is due to for some Scorpios, you're going to have Venus in Sagittarius, and so you or Mars and Sagittarius, maybe even both, and you just have that strong desire to be free. And of course, with the sun in Scorpio, that's going to form a lot of conflict within yourself. What's coming in is the Five of Cups. This is a card of mourning the loss of something. And really, you know, one of the things that can happen, like if somebody tries to come back into your life and your first reaction is to be flattered, or even if you're like a little bit wary about it, but you still think to yourself, wow, you know, they still are holding a torch for me, you may, after that initial, you know, ego boost, you might say, well, wait a second, okay, let's look at this. This is really, this could be about them. This could be about what they are, like a game that they're trying to play with me, and I'm looking at it in terms of I'm so full of myself, you know. I'm like thinking that I'm so great. And really it's something other than that. But it's basically seeing that something was lost and not trying to gloss over it, and to really emotionally cleanse yourself. Because I love the outcome card is the Ace of Wands, passionate new beginnings. And this can be like, for instance, if the Nine of Wands is this um, card of like feeling like you can't trust your employer, and you have one foot out the door. The Ace of Wands is a very independent type of energy, and it's kind of like you're looking to the future to be more autonomous, to not be reliant on others, because we can have the best judgment, but we don't know what other people are sometimes trying to pull. Sometimes people are doing things that are very calculated, and we may think that they try to play it off like one thing, but they're actually doing it for a completely different reasons, like Machiavellian type of tactics and things like that. And you may be tired of that if that's something you've dealt with. The Ace of Wands is also very creative and very like individualistic, and sometimes when you work with others, it's obviously it's a collaboration, but sometimes we have like a vision for ourselves and we really want to be able to make it happen, and we don't want to have to consult with somebody else to get permission or to see if they like it or anything. So you might be at that stage if this is work related, but certainly with love, it can be very exciting, passionate, and aces are beginnings. So that's very nice. I hope that you enjoyed this. Scorpio, if you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care.